Right, so we have this one image already stored as a brush, and we can pick this and then paint with it. Make sure you have currently the brush tool selected, and if you want to see the outline, you can hit the PRV for preview. That will show you where the brush actually is as you go over the image, and perhaps give it in full opacity. There you go. So you can click here or there and stamp it down and paint with that. That's not the idea though. What I'd like to do really instead is to have not just this one image in my brush. I want the whole sequence, the whole movie sequence in my brush as what we call an animated brush. And so that we can do quite easily since the video is an AVI file. Now I'm going to do this in 2 or 3 little steps here. Rather than just the raw method. I mean, you could go to the brush here and look for animated brush and then load an option here, AVI to animated brush. And with that, you can go load the AVI file straight into the animated brush. I mean, hey, why not? Let's go do that. And we are in sequence 2. That's the raw AVI, actually the one in DivX format or XVID. And open that, and so it will find a total of 269 frames at 1280 by 720. And how many do we want? Maybe you don't need the whole sequence, right? Well, let's go brute force with the whole sequence and see what it does with that. Well, sure enough, it's loading it. Frame, what is it? 60, you can see that barely here, 70 and so on. So it's going through the entire frame sequence of that AVI file and loading that into a custom animated brush. So you'll essentially have that AVI file then in your brush, that video, that movie in your brush, and you can then paint with that. It takes a chunk of memory, it takes a little time, and there you go. So has 269 frames. You may want to store that. A little reminder here that we have the whole thing now stored in the brush, and of course we didn't have any alpha selection mask around it, but we can paint with that now. You could go, for instance, with a step size of 0, and as you paint very slowly, you can see that it's actually moving through the clip. It's animating this brush as we're painting through it. See that? So it's twirling around. But we don't like to see the bowl around it, so that was not the right approach, not the right way to do it. So how do we do this properly? And I'm not going to store it therefore either. So the way to do this really, I think, is first of all we need to load the AVI, and there it is. And there you go. And the brush we have, the custom brush, we can probably free the custom brush, yes. You notice I was able to do that at the same time while it's still loading, and that's because this is kind of a multi-threaded environment. Even better, it runs as an ActiveX server, so you can have different plugins make requests to the server, and one may be loading an AVI, and another part may be responding to your interaction on the menu. So sometimes that architecture is really useful because you get to do a couple of things at the same time that otherwise in other programs and with other software architectures you might have to wait for something to complete before you can go on to the next one. Alright, so here we got this whole AVI loading again, and this time what I'll do is I'll create a selection mask just like I did here for this one, and I'm gonna close this one. So I'll select my mask just around. Let's go out a little bit and zoom out, and then give it to the middle roughly here. And let's see, this will be a good size for the brush, something like this. Okay, and it selected the inside now. You see the outside is turned purple pink. So the inside is what we want to choose, but we don't want that very crisp edge. So let's give it a little bit of a blur on the on this here. Give it a little bit of a blur transition, and so now we have a soft edge. And now, so the question now is, how do I select not just this one frame, just like I did earlier, or this frame, or this frame, or this frame? We could select any of these frames, but how do I do the whole sequence? Or maybe not the whole sequence, maybe just from like the middle, this one, to the end. Well, this is really easily done. Normally what you do is you pick this tool here, this square brackety thing, this tool, allows you to go and pick a portion of your image and make that the brush. So you pick it up, something like this. Right? You click and drag, bingo, and now you pick that up as your custom brush. When you did that, it only picked the current image. However, if you are looking at an animation and you use the same tool and you go about to pick it up like so, before you let go, as you're done your selection here and you're ready to let go of the mouse, hold the Alt key down and then look what happens. I hold the Alt key and then I let go my mouse button while the Alt key is still down. And then what's happening now is that it's cycling through the entire animation from the current frame to the end of it. So you don't have to have the whole transition necessarily, but just whatever the current frame is, you can have that copied into your custom brush. So it's actually taking one frame at a time from the video and picking that up as another frame and one more frame and adding all these into a custom animated brush. We have about 269 to go through here, so let's wait a little bit until we get to the end. Right now you can see which frame it's working on at the top. It's number 99, 100, so a few more to go. I'm going to pause here until we're done. Then we are getting close. It's 199, 200 frames so far, a few more to go. Alright, we're getting close to the end, 269, there it is, done. So we now have this whole frame sequence, only a portion of it, whatever we selected here with the custom brush selection tool, we have that picked up as a custom animated brush. And one thing I can do is, and I should do, I recommend you do that, if you want to keep working with this brush for a while, store it before you pick another one. Okay, now that will take some more memory and that will take some more time. But now at this point you have this entire sequence in the custom brush. Now that looks very similar to what we had earlier. The difference is that it's actually a whole animated sequence, and you can click here on show film strip to see that there is more than just one frame in it. Give it a few seconds, give it a little time, it needs to think about it and arrange it. But essentially you'll see now that you have a scrollable list here, a film strip. You can go through that, I think you can resize it too. Yep, you can grab the bottom here and move this down a little bit, and you know, if you're running low on memory, it will get a little bit sluggish because it has to go in and out of swap space. So I recommend you have a lot of RAM here, and but you can now see that this is an animated sequence. You have a whole sequence of frames that was picked up from the AVI file from the movie into the animated brush. And what that means is a lot of things. You can paint with that, you can do all sorts of transforms with that. Now I'm going to go do the whole thing all over again in a slightly different sequence, in different order, and you'll see soon why. And let's just do that in the next movie.